Hey, you're listening to episode 21 of the TA Pedals podcast. I'm Tristan.
And I'm Stephon.
We're coming at you with part 2 of our alien talk.
Part 2.
So yeah, we were discussing some stuff off air, and we've got some pretty cool stuff to talk about. So let's start with what you were saying, Stephon. There's not really, this is going to be an interesting conversation because now we're talking about physical evidence like that we can record and observe. And you were saying something about like how there's no way to really know if there's currently any life out there. Can you explain what you were talking about?
Yeah, so basically what I was pointing out is that we don't have any current way of having any real-time viewing of planets that are outside of our solar system. I'm not, I don't know what the closest solar system is to us, and therefore I don't know what the closest planet is to us, but I know how light years works, and I know that our viewing of things that are light years away is us basically viewing something of the past. And so if we're looking at something that's 1,000,000 light years away, which is probably pretty as close as I can get to how far away the closest thing is. Our lifespan on Earth is something like what, 1 billion years?
I'm not sure.
Like if we go back to the earliest signs of life on Earth, like before dinosaurs, before fish in the sea, things like that, then we can at least date 1,000,000 years. So if we're looking at something 1,000,000 years away, 1,000,000 light years away, then that means that we're looking at things that happened 1,000,000 years ago. And so if that planet has life currently right now, but didn't have it 1,000,000 years ago, then we are not actually affording any evidence to the fact that that planet may have life.
I just looked up what the closest Earth-like planet is, and that's assuming that life in the universe would function and exist in the way that we do, carbon-based life forms that need water and stuff. The closest Earth-like planet that could support life is in Proxima Centauri b, and it's 4.2 light years away. So that's one planet, and we're looking 4.2 years into the past.
Okay.
Essentially. But that's one planet.
But that could be a planet that is in the early stages of its life.
Right, exactly. So
it hasn't produced life yet.
Right.
If we look at planets that are already on the verge of death, like for example, like if you look at Mars, it's a desert everywhere you go. Like it's a planet full of desert. And that's not the best. Like that's a simplified version of what Mars is. But if you look at Mars, you can see that there are signs of there used to be rivers, there used to be something there, and there's other planets out there that we're looking at that look like at some point in time there was something there, but we don't have. It wasn't until within the last 100 years that we were able to view planets with high resolution, and we can zoom in enough on a planet to view surfaces and things like that until the last 100 years. So we can only speculate things based on the last 100 years of what we've been able to view. And so that's not enough time to consider if that planet ever had life or if it will have life.
Yeah, like
because 100 years doesn't 100 years in the early stages of a planet is not, like how much did we grow in the first 100 years of life starting? You know what I'm saying? Like there's just no way to substantiate anything based off of that.
Right, yeah. And like if the universe is like billions of years old, and like you said, we've only had the technology to view other planets and parts of the universe for like 100 years, that window is so small and insignificant compared to the billions of years that have passed. So yeah, we really don't have the capability to to have like the full scope of what has existed and developed over those billions of years.
Yeah.
So yeah, who knows how many civilizations have come and gone since then.
Yeah, exactly. Like if we're looking at a planet that has already had life and the civilization has already died out and the planet's already, turned into a wasteland, we have no way of being able to view signs of if those things have ever happened. We have no way to conclude anything. We can only speculate and make theories, but we can't for sure definitively say that planet never had life.
Right. And I think that kind of ties into the Fermi paradox that we've talked about a little bit before. And I'm going to pull up exactly what the Fermi paradox is so I don't get it wrong, but it's essentially like a list of conditions that say this is why we are unable to find life, and unlikely to find life. Let's see what it says. Here's this. This is the chain of reasoning off of Wikipedia for the Fermi paradox. There are billions of stars in the Milky Way similar to the Sun. With high probability, some of these stars have Earth-like planets in a circumstellar habitable zone. The Goldilocks zone is what I've heard it referred to as. And so, yeah, like mathematically, it's very likely there are Earth-like planets orbiting a sun. Many of the stars, and hence their planets, are much older than the sun. If the Earth is typical, some may have developed intelligent life long ago. Some of these civilizations may have developed interstellar travel, a step humans are investigating now. Even at the slow pace of currently envisioned interstellar travel, the Milky Way galaxy could be completely traversed in a few million years. And since many of the stars similar to the Sun are billions of years older, Earth should have already been visited by extraterrestrial civilizations, or at least their probes. However, there's no convincing evidence that this has happened. And so, like, we're starting to see evidence of some sort that there are craft that we can't explain, though, and there have been for, a couple hundred years. And even if you count like religious texts and paintings and things like that, they show things that can't be explained, like people in what appear to be astronaut suits and in like rockets and stuff.
Hieroglyphics and stuff like that do depict things like that.
Yeah.
They have sort of like these auras around their heads, and that can be construed as like a modern day astronaut. Stuff like that. But like the biggest like theory that I've heard, over my span of dealing with these things, it is the whole ancient Egypt thing with the the idea that the pyramids were made for a specific reason, and how they were able to construct such large things that even now would be difficult for us to do, but they got it done with minimal technology.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've ever looked into like how the pyramids like align with certain like constellations, and also with like I think they align with what people call ley lines. It's like specific points of latitude and longitude where it has something to do with like the Earth's electromagnetic field, and yeah, it's weird because there's like so much math tied into it.
Yeah, just things
and it's
that,
so accurate.
The things that would be like I said, the things that would be difficult for us to do now, they were able to do with minimal understanding and minimal technology. And it's just those are the kind of things that make you think about stuff like that.
Right.
And not to mention, there is a great movie that describes those theories, and that movie's called Stargate. Have you seen that movie? Okay, well, it essentially has it kind of shows like the idea of like there are aliens out there, and they at some point visited our planet and enslaved people, and to construct these massive pyramids to which their alien ships fit perfectly on top of. Like, so like the ship is like an extruded layer of the exact shape of a pyramid. So imagine a pyramid, but the center's gone. And it fits on top. And when the doors open, like they open in the right spot where you can just walk right into the pyramid, that kind of thing. Like, and there is like the Stargate, which is like this interdimensional portal, interstellar portal, I guess. And you change the symbols to a specific alignment, and it will travel you to a specific location in the universe or whatever. And so, like, that's aside from the Stargate thing, like, I don't see that being a possibility of happening. But the idea that a spaceship, can fit on top of a pyramid, and it was designed to house that spaceship, like, that makes sense. That makes enough sense to justify it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they do, the pyramids line up with what's, I would say, biblically known as the three kings, and that's the stars, Orion's belt, that come down over Egypt in a straight line, basically. And the pyramids are supposed to be an exact replica of those star patterns.
Yeah, how they did the things that they did, I don't understand. And not even like people get so caught up on like the building of the pyramids, because like there is stone that was used to build the pyramids, that like these giant like multi-ton stones that came from like a quarry that was like 100
too far away.
Yeah, like too far away to be transported or whatever. And like, while that is amazing, it's also amazing how mathematically complicated they are.
Yeah.
And
how perfect it is.
Yeah. And yeah, that's the part of it that I don't really understand, is like how these ancient people were so complex and yet didn't supposedly have, much technology.
And they've done the mathematical steps to, show how long it would have took to break down or make the stone the shape that it is and then transport it, and given certain pulley systems or log replacement systems or whatever, how long it would have actually took them to construct a pyramid. Not to mention there's 3 of them in the same spot.
In the Great Pyramid of Giza, there are 2.3 million stones.
Yeah. And the amount of time it would have took them to produce one stone. I don't want to speculate that. I kind of want to find out what the real timeline was to produce one stone and transport it to where its position would be.
I'll look it up. I don't know if we'll be able to find that specifically, but I'll look into it.
Yeah. But given even if let's say you were able to produce one stone per week, right?
Yeah.
So, and you have how much? 3 million?
2.3 million.
2.3 million. Okay, so the math on that, it would have took 44,230 years to produce one pyramid. If they were able to take 1 week, if it were 1 week per getting a stone, transporting it there, putting it in its place. That's 1 week to move more than a ton's worth of rock.
Here's some information for you. Here's some.
Is it gonna?
It's a brain buster.
Okay.
Listen to this. It says the pyramids were made from 5.5 million tons of limestone and 8,000 tons of granite. The 8,000 tons of granite was transported from 800 kilometers away. So that's nuts on its own. That's
approximately 60 to 70 or 600 to 700 miles away. And that's a long time.
And this is from NBCnews.com. It says solved! ! How ancient Egyptians moved massive pyramid stones. It says they wet the sand in front of a contraption to pull heavy objects. How do you wet sand in a desert for 800 kilometers?
For that many times?
Yeah.
Over that?
So I don't think so.
Okay, so were you able to find any depiction of an approximate timeline to move one stone from the location of where it was found to put it into its place on a pyramid?
Not yet.
Because if you consider you have so many workers, creating the stone blocks, and then it goes on a ship and then transported down a river and then carried from the river to its location of where the pyramids are.
Everything that I've found so far says there's no definitive answer. And it says yeah.
Do we have a small number and a high number?
No.
We can give an estimated approximation or a range of time. Let's see. Let's say the quarry is approximately 600 miles away. On a river on a boat carrying more than a ton of rock on a wooden ship. To me, if I were to drive 600 miles in a car, that would take me close to 2 days. It would take me anywhere from 36 hours to 48 hours to make that trip in a car going 70 miles an hour. Okay. Based on that idea, it would have, let's say that we equivalate that. So it would have took them 2 days to transport one rock down a river to the pyramids. Okay. And then pulling it from the river to the pyramids, which has to be at least 50 more miles. Probably more than that, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt, all right? 50 more miles.
I think just
pulling with a string.
A quick interjection. I think we're already definitely giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
Thinking that they could pull a massive stone on a small boat down a small river.
Well, I mean, the river would do all the work.
I don't know if the boat could support the weight. Is what I'm saying.
It had to. They did it, right?
I don't know if they put them on ships and sailed them down the river.
That's the most logical thing that I've heard so far, is that they were put on a ship and this ship carried it down a river.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, like, that's already... What I'm saying is it's reinforcing your point.
Yeah.
That no matter how they did it, no matter how they did it, the most practical way is still ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, the stones are massive, given that, but a wooden ship definitely should be at least able to hold the size of a car.
Well, I mean, how big is the ship is the question.
It had to. I mean, the hieroglyphics and the ancient texts of Egypt depict that they were quite large.
Yeah,
probably a similar size to a cruise ship made of wood. But with the old school like roll bar systems, like the Vikings used.
I mean, it's definitely possible.
So like that, but like
nuts.
Can you imagine pulling a giant stone onto a ship?
That's what I was thinking.
That could easily tip over if the weight is too heavy on one side. That's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
So let's simplify this.
Yeah, please continue.
Okay, 2 to 3 days of a stone traveling down a river. Okay. Let's make it a full day's worth of work to get that stone on the ship. Let's make it 1 to 2 days of work to get that stone from the ship to the pyramid. Let's take another 1 to 2 days to get it into its position. Let's say it takes a whole week to get one stone to its destinated position. 430,000 years it would have taken to construct one pyramid. Ain't nobody living that long back then. Maybe 40 years at the top. The lifespan was maybe 40 years, right?
I think so.
So that means that you had someone or a family that had the longest line of lineage ever in the history of the world. Who knows? They were a family in power that had the same ideals, that gave the same ideals to the next generation, We have to get these pyramids done. Like, there's no stopping. Like, I know this person started it hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, but we have to make sure this gets done. Really? That's gotta do some more math.
So my question is, now that we've kind of
by
realized how ridiculous...
That's 1,200 generations. 1,200 generations that are following the same path to make sure these things get done. That's just one of them, though.
Right.
Times that by 3.
So my question to you is, now that we've talked about how ridiculous the building of the pyramids is, what do you think happened? Like, how do you think aliens are involved in this? Like, if aliens or whatever had something to do with it, what do you think it was?
Let's. What I think, like, and my opinion can change at any point in time, but give me just a second.
Okay. Because my question has always been, like, if aliens were the ones to help ancient Egyptians and other ancient civilizations like the Mayans build these insanely difficult structures that, you know, we would have trouble building even today. Obviously, the question is, why did they help them build them? Like, what significance are they? And where did the aliens go afterwards? And yeah, I'm curious to hear what you think about that.
You want to hear something even crazier?
It's pretty weird.
Okay, I'm going to answer that question after this. It says that the pyramids of Giza, all 3, were constructed roughly between 2550 BC to 2490 BC. That means that they were constructed within 60 years.
Yeah, that doesn't even make sense. That doesn't make sense.
No. Like, it really doesn't. Even if with today's technology, we couldn't even hope to construct that within a third of that time. I don't think.
When I was doing some Google searches for what we were talking about a minute ago, about how long it would take to transport the stones, I saw one thing that was like, how long would it take to cut the stones out? And someone was like, well, not as long as most people think. Look at this technology they had, and it was like a hand drill. It was like, by using water and some quartz sand, you could cut one of these blocks out rather quickly.
You can cut one of these blocks out that is as tall as an average person.
That weighs
within a. Yeah, I mean, come on. Like, you know how long you gotta, even with today's technology, drilling a hole that deep into a rock would take hours.
It would,
even in today's technology.
Pretty ridiculous. And I have some family that used to like cut and drill rock in like these giant slabs, and you would have to have like diamond saw blades, and it would have to be like water cooled the entire time. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you're telling me like some Egyptian dudes with like some hand drills can do it quicker than you'd actually think.
Yeah. Quicker than you actually think. I think that I am under the impression that they were able to produce one stone from the quarry, able to be transported within a day. I'm under that impression.
Right. Which is pretty quick, all things considered.
And in today's technology, it's not far-fetched to think that way. Mm-hmm. It's not far-fetched to think that we could produce a stone that big within one day.
Right.
But back then,
that's the crazy part.
That's highly unlikely. But we're giving it the benefit of the doubt. Okay?
So, do you think that aliens helped build the pyramids, or what's your explanation for that?
I wouldn't go as far as say that I'm on board with that idea, but it does justify a lot of questions. It does explain. It would for me explain how they perceived things, their ideals, how they were able to create things. It makes more sense to me to say that they were helped in some way.
Okay, my second question is why?
Because,
why would the aliens do that?
well, I mean, obviously it was for their own benefit. If you do even a little bit of research, you can understand that the people who did construct the pyramids were enslaved.
Right.
And they were enslaved by pharaohs or, whoever was the leader of Egypt at the time, whatever. But is it that far-fetched to think that their leaders or pharaohs or whoever wasn't a human being? Because they were considered to be of higher power. Like the people who were the leaders and did the enslaving, they were considered to be of higher power. And that they were capable of things that a normal human weren't.
Right.
So with that, if you take it at its face value, it would seem that the people who were running things back then weren't actually human. It would seem that way. But as we have, have looked at other, different cultures and backgrounds, we can see that, people just depict themselves that way.
Right.
They just describe themselves that way. And when in reality, they're just a normal human being, but so there is a one side and another side, but the idea that the feats that they accomplished in the short time that they did, it doesn't suggest that there was a normal human being running things. So it's just crazy to think about.
So my other question was, where did the aliens go then? Did they stick around, and are they still visiting us today and influencing the development of our technology, or did they die out somehow, or did they fly away?
There's really no way of knowing that. I mean, if we haven't been able to view space in a clear way for long enough to determine that a planet close to us at some point in time had life and that they were able to travel to our planet. What if they lived in a planet nearby and they came to our planet and helped us with technology, went back to their planet, and since then has destroyed their planet, and now the planet that we view looks like a decimated planet, like it never had life, and, vice versa. Whereas it could have. Like if 4.5 light years away, just for example, how long would it take us to travel 4.5 light years away? I would think less than 50 years of travel. So if that planet at some point in time had life and traveled to our planet, had the technology to travel to our planet and shared its technology and had intentions of returning, but went back and then something went wrong and the planet, everything died and blah, 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 blah. We wouldn't be able to view that planet as it ever had life because it's been so long since it happened. The planet would have had to been recently, within the last 1,000 years, been destroyed for us to be able to tell if it had life at any point in time, I think. So if it happened any time before that, which is more likely, then we have no way of being able to conclude that happened.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I think, one of the biggest struggles of this whole conversation is it's like we know that it's mathematically probable that there is life in the universe and probably intelligent life. But there's no proof, and obtaining proof at this point is very difficult. So, we've been touching on the fact that when planets are light years away and we can observe them, we're looking into the past. Well, that number is ever increasing because of the expansion of the universe. And I've listened to people much smarter than me talk about how that's why it's unlikely that we'll ever have evidence of extraterrestrial life outside of a very, very advanced civilization who are nearly godlike contacting us. Like, if that doesn't happen, we're very unlikely to find evidence of current life in the universe, because with the universe expanding and everything, traveling further and further away from each other, like objects in the universe, that distance between objects is always expanding as well. And so you're always looking further and further into the past when observing these other planets and stuff. And earlier you mentioned that we can look at planets in high resolution now, and we have like deep space probes like Hubble and other telescopes that send images back to Earth of different astral bodies, but I don't think have ever escaped our own galaxy. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, when we look at these planets that we say are Earth-like, we don't have high-resolution images of those planets.
Mm-hmm.
I believe how they do it is by, like, looking at the spectrum of light and how the light from the telescope reflects and its proximity to a star and things like that, to try to determine the makeup of the planet and
approximate distance
and all of those things.
Just it's all just a hypothetical approximation.
Exactly. It's
all not there's no definitive proof of anything at all.
Right. Like, it's not like all the planets we say, like, oh, we found so many Earth-like planets and blah blah blah. It is scientific, and it is measurable to within a certain degree of accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really interesting to think about the possibilities and the mathematic probability, but like, it's like, because science is so popularized right now and it's so exciting, and we have this ever increasing technology that allows us to observe things that have been outside of our scope up until this point. I feel like a lot of articles that we come across are really embellished when they're like, oh, we found this Earth-like planet or whatever. They don't describe how they found it or how they measured its, distance from that star or whatever. And so, I guess my point is I feel like less proof than is portrayed, and it's more so an approximation. Speculation, yeah. And so I'm skeptical that we will have solid evidence anytime soon. In our lifetime.
For
of
sure.
any kind of life, microscopic, intelligent, or otherwise.
Yeah.
And that's kind of disappointing, but it's crazy to think that, like, if what we've talked about so far is true, that the universe is billions of years old, and it takes a certain amount of time for a civilization to develop, interstellar travel, and based on like the distance between all of these planets, it's like, well, why haven't we been visited yet? Why don't we have any solid evidence of visitation?
Here's something else to think about.
Okay.
So you know how the stages of a sun, like the lifespan of a sun, okay? It starts off at a certain temperature and it gets hotter towards the middle of its life. And then it starts to cool off towards the end of its life, right? So in between the beginning stages of our sun and the middle stages of our sun where it's currently at, is it likely that the planets before us were able to sustain life due to a cooler sun? And then once the sun has started rising, its temperature has been so hot that it's just a floating rock now.
I don't think so, but I don't think that it necessarily. I don't think that your observation is like a crazy one or anything like that. But as far as like the point you make about the other planets being able to sustain life and things, I don't think so, not because of the temperature, but because of the atmosphere composition.
Well, currently, yes.
Well, the composition of the atmosphere wouldn't change based on temperature, like Venus is.
What if the sun rising in temperature at some point was too hot for like you said? No, I wouldn't say Venus. The planets closer to the sun, not the ones that are farther away.
Venus is closer to the sun than Earth. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars,
okay.
Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune.
So Venus, let's say Venus, a billion years ago, where the sun was not as hot as it is, and maybe it had similar temperatures to what the sun has now, and it had life at some point, but as time went on and the sun got hotter, it was unable to maintain those things, and at some point in time, the surface, like the ozone layer, disappeared, and the surface burned up, and now there's nothing there.
Well,
do you see what I mean by that?
I do, but I still maintain that the atmosphere is much different than Earth's.
Because there's mostly carbon.
It's mostly carbon dioxide, which essentially turns the planet into like a greenhouse. It's, you've heard greenhouse gases.
Yeah.
Carbon dioxide. It actually makes the planet hotter, and so I get there probably is no ozone layer on Venus. Is my point. And so
what I'm saying is our Earth is currently turning into that state. Our carbon monoxide is increasing, as our Earth gets older. At some point in time, our atmosphere is going to become what that atmosphere is.
You think so?
I think so. Unless we're able to develop technology to reverse it, which is very unlikely.
We definitely are having human activities having an effect on Earth's atmosphere, but I don't know to the point that it would be considered like Venus. And there's, I don't know, the Earth's atmosphere is so giant, and when you talk about the conservation of mass or whatever, it's like there's so many particulates, like unmeasurably, an unmeasurable number of particulates in Earth's atmosphere that I don't know that it could change to be like Venus.
But
I do get what you're saying.
Okay, so
what you're
like
saying,
think about.
I don't know.
Let's. These are all just theories.
Yeah.
These are all just ideas in my head. All right. I don't know that anyone has had similar ideas or not. But if you think about it, like, what if Venus at some point in time had life, right?
Yeah.
And it started to die because it was destroyed by the living inhabitants of it. The carbon monoxide got to a point where it shifted in the wrong direction and the surface burnt up, right? They left that planet, came to Earth. Okay? Because it was the next planet in line and it seemed like a viable solution to start life on Earth, right?
Okay.
It restarted and we got to the point where we're at now. Currently, right now, we're talking about going to Mars and eventually inhabiting Mars. So what if we're just in a cycle where we're moving farther away from the sun because the sun is getting hotter and hotter and hotter, and we need to get to the next coolest planet to maintain our survival?
I see some problems there, but
I understand.
It's okay.
That's why they're just ideas.
Yeah, right. But, I do like the idea, though.
But it at some point makes sense.
I want it to make sense.
Why are we
I see what you're saying.
Why are we talking about moving to Mars?
Because it's
not me, not specifically me and you, but there are plans in place to put people on Mars to live there.
Yeah,
and
I think it's just a
habitat. Make it a habitat.
I think it's human ambition to inhabit the universe, and I'm not saying it's not other alien species' ambition too, but I really think that it's because we can, and I don't think it's for much other reason other than just like having like a backup plan or
exactly
or
backup
whatever.
Plan.
Because
we go there and we create a habitable planet. We what is the word?
Terraform.
Yeah, we terraform Mars and it starts to thrive and grow, and we have rivers running and we have trees and we have plants, and it eventually at some point in time is going to look similar to how Earth looks now. You know, given that the steps go in the right direction. And in order to make that happen there, we'd have to exhaust all of the resources here. So eventually, Earth is going to become a decimated planet where there's nothing left, and we're eventually all going to be on Mars.
Why do you think that we would have to exhaust all of the resources here
We
to terraform Mars?
already are exhausting all of our resources living here. Imagine having
I don't think so.
Imagine having to build a planet from scratch.
Why? I don't think we're exhausting our resources here. We're exhausting some fossil fuels, but everything else is fine.
Okay.
Right?
I don't know.
What? I mean,
there's problems with deforesting. There's problems with wildlife going extinct. Dude,
Well, I'm not saying we're
there's
not on course
there's
to,
overfishing issues.
but my point is that those are renewable resources, and if we change course and stop
But
killing or stop the deforestation, stop overfishing, you can make more fish. You can make more
those
trees.
are renewable resources.
So,
but are we renewing them, or are we exhausting them?
I mean, currently we are. I don't think we're exhausting them, but we're on
the verge of it.
I don't think we are. I just think we're on the path to eventually. But with increasing technology, I think that the path will be easy to change. And I think, to be honest, it all has to do less with exhausting the resources because of, I think what I mean is, like, if we were to exhaust the resources, it would be due to human greed for sure.
Which is,
but if we are able to change course, then I don't think we'll exhaust. The point is, I don't think that the terraforming of Mars would have to come at the cost of exhausting Earth's resources. I don't think that Earth would have to suffer for Mars to be terraformed. I don't see why that has to be.
I think you're thinking of a faster timeline than I am. I don't think it's going to be in our lifetimes that Mars gets terraformed.
Oh, definitely not.
I think it's going to be thousands of years before it becomes terraformed to the point where we're able to substantially live there. And so thousands of years from now into the future of Earth, how much resources are we going to have left?
Well, I guess it depends on what our future generations choose to do with the planet.
I don't see it going any differently than it is now, because technology is ever expanding. We need things like copper and we need things like gold just to maintain technology.
Yeah, but I mean, if we had the technology, then we could recycle things as well. Like, it's you know what I'm saying.
I do.
Like, if we make it a point to put systems in place to recycle, then we're not going to run out of really anything except for, like, fossil fuels, probably.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think if proper technology is put into place, we would have systems in place to not exhaust the resources, but we would have to make sure to recycle things properly. But whether we'll do that or not, I don't know.
That's the opinion of a few, not the opinion of many.
Well, it's not really an opinion. It's if we do that, that will suffice.
I mean,
it's whether it will happen, it would be an opinion, but I don't know that.
Yeah. So, like,
but we could.
I'm basing my theory and idea on our current humanity. We are very wasteful and we are very destructive. And given that how rapid our technology is increasing and where it's going to be at, in just a few hundred more years, I don't see a change that significant happening.
I think that I do. And I think that younger people are starting to become more aware of environmental issues, and I think that it'll change over time. Like, there are, like, very young people inventing things that like automatically get plastic out of the ocean. There are people like, and don't get me started on how I emotionally feel about some of these things. I'm not even going to go into that. I'm not. But like Greta Thunberg or whatever her name is, she's, like, brought awareness to, millions of people, probably billions. I think that we are becoming more aware of our impact on the environment, but I think that it will be generations before we actually see a change in the importance of taking action to preserve the earth. But I think it'll happen. It's just
I would like
know.
to think. I would like to think that.
Yeah.
But given the history of humans, it doesn't seem likely.
You know, we didn't even mention what time we got up to do this podcast. I'm really tired.
Did we need to?
We didn't, but I'm like over here like yawning and stretching and making noises and stuff, and yeah. We're actually coming up on an hour. Are we gonna have to do a part 3? I think we should do a part 3, and next week we should have some specific points of evidence to discuss as far as like what video evidence and other measurable evidence has been discovered as far as alien activity.
Yeah, I think we should definitely do
things.
some, as close to scientific research as we're capable of.
Yeah.
And, come to a conclusion and then share that conclusion.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well,
are we done already?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, we're at like 58 minutes. I think we're
Moral
good.
Moral of the story for today's podcast, we need to make some changes, or else we're going to destroy our planet.
And then we're going to have to terraform Mars quicker than we want to.
Oh, man.
We're going to have to send a colony ship full of people.
We're going to have to send people to live there and be slaves, and then they're going to have to build us some pyramids and stuff while we sit back and watch them. And then when they're done with the pyramids, then we kill them off and yeah.
Wow, that got really genocidal really quick.
I'm just trying to follow in the footsteps of our ancestors.
Well, okay. I don't know if that's the best idea, but okay. We'll go with it for now.
I feel like life is a cycle, and it's hard to break a cycle.
Both tires fell off my bike. I broke a cycle. Okay, well, thanks for listening, everyone. It's been fun again. And we'll be back next week with more alien talk on part 3.
Bye.
Bye.